What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about another draft prospect. And today we're talking about a draft prospect that could potentially fit the Detroit Lions scheme perfectly for the new defense that we have coming in. So let's get it started.
No, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, guys don't know, DoseOfDion, he put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we're talking about another draft prospect. And today we're talking about a safety that I think the Detroit Lions could definitely target this year that would add help at a position that they could definitely use it, but also I think fit the scheme really, really well. You guys remember that safety, that big name safety that hit free agency this offseason, and a lot of people were excited to think that the Lions could actually sign him. Not Marcus Williams, he ended up getting the tag, but the other safety that the Lions were apparently showing some interest in, but he ultimately signed with the Cleveland Browns, John Johnson III. Well, there's a safety coming out of this draft class that's pro comparison is John Johnson, and that is Jamar Johnson. It's kind of weird that they have both Johnson as their last name. I guess it's a popular last name, right? Johnson. So Jamar Johnson is who we're going to be talking about in today's video. The safety out of Indiana, coming in at 6'2", 205 pounds. It was actually a really good size for Jamar Johnson. That's what he came in at his pro day. And, look, I watched this guy. I think the first time I really saw this guy was when I was watching Justin Fields tape, because you watch Justin Fields going against Indiana. We know he really struggled in the game, and that was kind of Jamar Johnson's breakout game where a lot of people know him from, and he had a really nice game because he had two big interceptions. However, the second interception, he fumbled on the return, and it was like, what the heck, Jamar? But that was a really big game for him because, they're going against Ohio State. That was a heck of a game this year, by the way. Man, that was a game. I miss football already. Come back, football. But anyways, Jamar Johnson had a really nice game in that where he had the two interceptions. He had some nice tackles. He did he missed a lot of things as well, but he had some big plays out there, which really, I think, got his name flowing. And still, some people are underrating this prospect heading into the draft, which is absolutely crazy. So I took a look at, where three of the biggest mock draft sites have him ranked. Took a look at the Draft Network, who has the mock draft machine, the yellow one where you have to pay to trade back. They had him ranked as their 74th prospect. Okay, so that's probably like a midday. That's probably like a day two, maybe round three, maybe round two, but probably a round three type of player. Okay, that makes sense. I kind of see him there. And then Pro Football Network, that mock draft simulator where it's free to trade back, they had him ranked at 208. He's ranked 208. And then, I looked at PFF and their mock draft machine, even though I think it's kind of wild how theirs works. They had him ranked at number 41, so they had him ranked super high. But Pro Football Network was, I think it's a little bit sleeping here on Jamar Johnson. And I think this could be a really nice fit for Lions and someone they could definitely look into, because Lions were interested in signing John Johnson. He's got a lot of similarities to his game, which is why his pro comparison is John Johnson. But also, he fits the scheme because he ran a similar scheme to what the Saints did last season. He's been able to play in all the roles where the Detroit Lions could use help in the back end. Plus, the Lions could just use some safety help, really secondary help in general, because it really struggled last year. We had the new secondary coaches. So it wouldn't shock me if the Lions, put some value towards adding some of that help during the draft. And I think Jamar Johnson could be a very, very helpful piece. Measured in at 6'2", 205, which I thought was a really good size because it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit bulkier than I think the initial projections were, which were saying around 195, so about 10 pounds heavier, which was nice. His best 40-yard time came in at a 4.58. Now, all these times are unofficial, but at 4.58, not bad speed. Put that into context, Duron Harmon coming out of the draft out of Rutgers back in, 2013, he ran a 4.51, so just a tad slower, but, not a bad time. To the Senior Bowl director, his other time was a 4.6, so that's kind of the range he is, which isn't elite, but it's not bad speed either. He's not slow, so he didn't really hurt himself with that time. Continuing with some of the other numbers, he had a 35-inch vertical, solid vertical there, 7.22, 3-cone drill time. So honestly, none of those stats are bad. None of them blow you away. None of those numbers are elite, but they're all solid numbers that he put up at the pro day for Indiana. But when you watch him play, I think he brings a lot to the table that the Detroit Lions really, really could like. I say is the scheme fit. Well, let's start with that first. So he played in a 4-2-5 defense with Indiana, which is what the Saints ran last season. I don't know if the Lions are going to run that defense next year or not. It could be more of a 3-4 look, which is what, a lot of the background is for Aaron Glenn. But I can tell you, he played a lot of different positions defensively where the Detroit Lions could use help. First off, he played the deep safety role. The single high deep safety. He played that role with Indiana from time to time, which the Lions, they could use help there. In the past, they've kind of rotated between, Will Harris and Tracy Walker. And then last year, they brought in Duron Harmon, so he was that guy. but they're still kind of trying to figure out who that guy is. Jamar Johnson did some of that at Indiana, so he has that experience. He also can play in the box. The Lions will use safeties in the box next season. I can guarantee you that, especially if you look at what the Saints did last year. They play a lot of times, at least one defensive back in the box. In that 4-2-5, because you have the 5, defensive backs on the field, one usually slides down to the box if there's no slot for him to take. So that's usually what happens. A lot of times there's an extra DB on the field, so clearly having experience there helps. And also playing in a split safety look, which is what the Lions will probably run a majority of the time, as Aaron Glenn pretty much straight up said that would be the case for the Detroit Lions. So schematically wise, I think he fits really, really well for what the Detroit Lions could be looking for. So let's get into his numbers before I start to get into what I saw from him on the field and what I think he can bring to the table, but things that he does struggle with, because of course these are college prospects, right? They're all going to struggle with certain things. He has some issues on the field you can definitely see, but nothing that I don't think you can't be improved upon. But his stats were really nice last season. On 23 targets, he only gave up 11 receptions, which is obviously sub 50%. He gave up a 27.5 passer rating, 27.5, 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So he played in the box, he played at slot, he played at deep safety, he played split safety, he played all over the field. Now, when I say, he was the kind of guy that could play in the box, and of course, when there's a slot there, he could take that slot matchup. He could do all of that. Actually, coming out of high school, interestingly, he played for a high school team named the Rams. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Track star, but also a cornerback in high school. So that's kind of where he started, was a cornerback, and he developed into more of a safety at the next level at college. So he definitely has an experience under his belt back from high school, and he looks pretty good and comfortable in coverage. You can definitely see it. Now, what did I see from him on film? Of course, the stats, obviously, they check out, right? They look really good from last season. One thing he is lacking, however, is snaps. He's played in less than 800 snaps in his career. He does have somewhat limited experience. It's actually one of the biggest knocks against him is the limited snap that he's played in. But let's talk about on the field, and I'll show some clips as we talk about it. Let's start off with him as a run defender, because I think this is his biggest weakness right now, is as a run defender. Watch him against the run, you'll notice a few things that are good. You notice that he's a very willing tackler that will go down and make plays. He shoots down very hard. There's no hesitation when he shoots down trying to stop run, and he will play pretty aggressive. So I think he has all those things going for him as a run defender, which is nice. But he has also a lot of issues as a run defender, someone that's, trying to make a tackle in open space, all those kind of into one. First off, his technique is just kind of a mess. Now, I will say this, it did seem to improve as the season went on. You'll notice earlier in the season, it looked completely out of whack. Like, I had no idea what he was doing. Sometimes he would just completely reach out and just stand there, and he wouldn't even use his body. Other times he'll just throw his body at you and not even use his arms. It looked like a mess. Okay, it was like, Indiana, what the heck are you teaching these dudes? This guy looks like he has no idea what tackling is. I mean, it looked bad, really bad. And he has a high missed tackle percentage because of that. It's actually slightly over 25%. That's not good. Now, for safeties, usually it's a little bit higher, but that's not good. So he definitely has some missed tackle concerns early, and a lot of, to me, was technique, because he wasn't afraid to make tackles, but it looked bad. It did not look good, and he wasn't doing it right. He wasn't breaking down. He wasn't wrapping up consistently. Sometimes he just throw himself at him. Really bad, really bad. But it did seem to improve as the season went on, yet you still saw those things kind of come up again. And I get it. He's not the biggest guy, so he doesn't play with the most strength, but there is aggressiveness in his nature, and they play him so much in the box that it should be better. He should be a better tackler. He should be more of a formed tackler than what he is. Doesn't break down consistently. It was bad. But like I said, it did improve as it went on, and he tries to get involved in a lot of plays as a tackler. Like I said, he tries to, use his head. He tries to get involved in tackles all the time, which is not what you want from a safety, because a lot of times they can be your last line of defense, and if they're thought process is I'm just going to dive at him and just, throw my shoulder and turn away, that's an issue, because that's when, you give up big plays because you're not making the safe tackle. Like I said, it did improve as the season went on, and I saw by the last game against Ole Miss in their bowl game, it looked better. He wasn't missing many tackles, but it still didn't look clean. Okay, so it's still something that he's gonna have to prove on. So as a run tackler, he does play with some aggressiveness. He's not the strongest guy because he's a little bit on the lighter side, but he has that ability to do that. So I think run defender is, to me, his biggest knock right now in his game, and it's something that he needs to improve upon. But to me, it just means he's got to have good coaching. He needs good coaching that can really help him. And keep in mind, like I said, he's played in less than 800 snaps. He's still a young player coming out of college. There's always going to be issues, but he does have the, I think, mentality that you want from a guy that could be a tackler, and he's not undersized. I think coming in at 205 is a really good size for him. So that's good. That checks. His form is messed up. But in coverage, that's where he really brings a lot to your team. He brings a lot to your team in coverage. And he's not like some of the other guys we talked about where it's like, oh, they'll make some flash plays and then they'll give up some big plays right after that. really doesn't give up plays. We looked at it by the numbers. Doesn't really give up plays whatsoever in coverage. He'll give up a few, but he's really tightly contested on those plays. He's phenomenal in coverage. There's a lot of things I like. First off, he's a playmaker. He's got a nose for the football when the ball's in the air. 4 interceptions definitely shows that. But you can see he's always kind of flowing to where the football is, reading the quarterback's eyes. He reads the quarterback's eyes at another level. In zone coverage, he has a really good job of kind of flowing where everything is going to go. He doesn't get completely taken out of the play because he does stay disciplined. While he flows with eyes, he stays disciplined knowing that he can get back to where he needs to be. He doesn't overplay to a certain side where he can't get back to the other, okay? So he always leaves himself an option to get back into play in coverage. Like I said, his ability to play in coverage is everywhere. You can line up at a slot. He actually looks pretty good at slot. There's a lot of safeties that I saw that can line up at slot, but they don't look very good. He looks pretty good there. Not saying he did it all the time, but he looks pretty good there. You can line him up against tight ends, and he has pretty good size, pretty good height to hold his own ground there as well. He can take out, running backs that leak out of the backfield. One of my favorite parts about his coverage is actually as a blitzer. Now you're like, what the heck are you talking about there? I've seen this multiple times. That's why I bring it up, because this is like one of the little things you notice. When he's sent on blitzes, he's not just completely focused on, I'm getting after the quarterback. He also is still aware of his surroundings. And what do I mean by that? Like, there's occasions where he'll be sent on the blitz, and all of a sudden, a running back may leak out. And instead of continuing with his blitz, he'll kind of stop for a second and slide over there just to make sure that the running back's not going to leak out, because this is an easy dump off because you're blitzing. He's so aware of those little things. Sometimes the running back doesn't go and it may slow down the pass rush, but it is nice to have that, because if it turns into a screen and you have this blitz coming, it's nice to have a guy that's like, oh, hold up, I can see him leaking out. I'm going to go slide over there and not just continue to run at it. To me, that's one of those read and react type of plays where you can just see his awareness on the field. But like I said, he can cover slots at a pretty good level. Not extremely fast, but he does do a really good job flipping his hips and staying in coverage just like a cornerback would. I mean, I don't want him playing corner, but he looks pretty good in man-to-man coverage. And like I said, his zone feel is nice. But then in the deep end, he's really nice as well. At the deep end, the only issue I really noticed in his coverage, he does tend to sometimes get late in coverage. The field's cut in half, and it's a two-man look, and he's got one side and safety's got the other side, and let's say it's just a streak down the left sideline, right, and he's playing that sideline. Sometimes he's a little late to that, and he can get a little late over there to help the cornerback. That's what I've really noticed as his main issue in coverage. But aside from that, he's usually in a really good spot, and he knows that he's not the fastest guy, so he has to make sure that he's in a position where he can get back to where the football is if he has to, if that's where the ball goes. But he does a great job of reading the quarterback's eyes and being in position to make plays. Okay, he's in position to make the plays. A lot of his picks, I mean, honestly, you can look at all of them, he finds himself in early positions. Okay, and some of them, yeah, there was one against Wisconsin that seemed like he was just thrown to him, a terrible throw, but he got himself right where the quarterback was looking, and he got himself right in position. I think the pick on Justin Fields' rollout where he kind of just threw it in the air was actually a really good sign of that, because he was right in the position where he needed to be, and then he slid over and made the play because he was in the right area. He flows with things really well, reads the quarterback's eyes really well, just knows where things need to be. In coverage, his awareness is great, and he just has a knack for making plays in coverage. And I think for me, that's his biggest strength right now, is everything that he can do in coverage as a guy that can line up a man, a guy that can play slot, a guy that can flip his hips and play man-to-man, a guy that can be physical against a tight end, still find a way to capitalize on opportunities that are there, not having all these dropped interceptions. Finding a way to capitalize on a play is there. He'll shoot down to go make a play on the football. Every once in a while, he was a little late to that as well, but he will shoot down, be aggressive to go jump on a play. Sometimes that can get the best of him. Not a lot, but there is one clear example against Ohio State where he jumped on a play action and it got him out of place. There are those rare occasions where he will get bit down jumping on something, trying to make a play, because he is a playmaker. He's trying to make plays, and he doesn't have that elite athleticism that's going to help him recover in those plays. So if that happens, and you're the last line of defense, that will happen very rarely, where he'll get himself out of plays, especially on play action, because he'll be a little bit over aggressive. He'll be trying to make a play, and he'll just try to be a little bit of a ball hawk, and sometimes play action feels like that, trying to go down and make a play on the football, get involved in the run game. Like I said, he's a very willing tackler. He wants to get involved in seemingly every play. Every once in a while, though, that can work against it because of his mentality. But what I actually think helps him is because he's not an elite athlete that's been able to rely upon speed and quickness and things like that. He knows that if he gets beat or he gets out of position on those, it's basically a wrap, because he's not going to be able to recover and get himself in a position. Most times you won't be able to regardless, but he'll show the effort, get back in the play and make sure it wasn't a touchdown. But those are some things in his game. And I think actually because he's not ridiculously speedy kind of safety, that he doesn't overly trust himself. He knows his limits, and he doesn't play relying on what he can do. So he always has himself in a position where he knows that he can get to the football if he has to. So you can see it by his stats, but he just doesn't have those blown coverages where he'll give up these monster plays. That was kind of the thing with Cisco, right? He had to make these flashy, big playmaking plays, but also then he would come back and give up a touchdown. Some of that wasn't his fault, but you don't know that was Jamar very often. So I think that's a good thing because he's very disciplined in coverage, but as a run defender, as a tackler, it's not the same story. However, like I said, I did think it improved, but I think that's where he needs his most work. He did play less than 800 snaps, as I mentioned, so he's still fairly raw as a prospect that's still pretty young, obviously, coming out of the draft, and I think the willingness there, the mentality's there, the power is there, and you can see it as a blitzer, but he just needs to be more, honed in his skills there and just, be more consistent with his tackling and as a run defender, especially in space. Sometimes in open space, he makes some really nice tackles. You're like, oh, that was really good. Broke down, got him by the legs, brought him down. Nice. But you just want to see that more often. That way you don't have to see all these missed tackles. As a safety, I love the big hits. Trust me, I like the tone setters, but I also like knowing that when the ball is out there in the open field, that you're going to make that play for me and it's not going to turn into big ones. Now, most of the time when it's open field, he does have himself break down and make a good tackle, but there are still too many times where he's, just kind of lunging at him or trying to chuck him and stuff like that, and that's not good. He goes very low, and sometimes when he turns his head just to kind of put his shoulder on him, he can't see anything, so guys could easily hurdle him and they could become an absolute issue there. I think he has all the coverage ability that you could possibly want, and I think he has the ability as a run defender, and you see flashes of it, you just don't see the consistency there. There's not many guys in this class that are coming out that are complete everywhere, that could do everything. Most of those guys are first round prospects. For me, clearly he's not a first round prospect. He looks like a day 2 type of guy. Some people are thinking day 3, which is crazy. If you got him in day 3, I think you just stole him. But I think in terms of scheme fit, the mentality's there, the fact that he can just basically help you everywhere in coverage, that's just a playmaker that has a nose for the football. I think this is the type of guy that's very strong at the point of attack, finds himself in the right spots, very disciplined in coverage. I think this is the type of safety that you would want on your team. And with the Lions holding 3 mid-round picks, 1 in second round, 2 in the third round, I could see this being someone the Lions could definitely target because I think he'd fit in the scheme really, really well. Things to the table that the Lions could absolutely want, someone that they could develop and work with, especially in coverage. So I definitely think this could be someone the Lions look to target this year. They need secondary help, and Jamar Johnson would make a lot of sense because I think he could step in day 1 and help out. And I also think he's got a relatively high ceiling. Maybe he doesn't have that elite athleticism, but you don't always need that to be a good player. You always need to run a 4.4 to be a great player at the next level. Me in college going against good competition, I think he showed that off, that he still can find a way to look fast on the play because he could be ahead of everything. And I think that's the type of player that the Detroit Lions could be interested in. So Jamar Johnson, let me know what you guys think about Jamar Johnson. I think it's someone the Lions could definitely target. And at 6'2", 205 was a great size for him because it showed he was an undersized safety. There are some guys that are like that coming in like 185, or 5'9", 5'8", and you're like, ooh, the Lions go like that. He's got the size, he's got the coverage ability, he's got the tackling ability, but it just needs to be more consistent. And I think he's a perfect scheme fit. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Well, thank you for watching, and I'm out.